You're right, Jeff. Have you got it sorted?
Can you hit the record button too, please, Ricardo?
Yep.
Good.
This meeting is being...
Right, someone definitely is on twice. Who can I see?
I don't know whether it's me or not. I tried to get in a couple of times.
No, it looks like it's all good.
Okay, we okay?
Yep.
Right. Okay, well, thank you everybody for coming along to our meeting. I appreciate the fact that we've had quite a few meetings, lots of emails, lots of discussions, and lots of reports over the last little while. Just a reminder that this is a formal meeting. So once again, if we can use our little put your hand up to ask questions, that would be good. Karen, if you can continue to help me out, if I can't see anybody with their hand up, that would be appreciated. We'll start off the meeting tonight with apologies. Are there any apologies?
I haven't received any, but unless you know of some, I have none.
No, I don't know of any. I'm not too sure if everybody's here at the moment. I think so.
Trina's not here yet, but yeah, maybe she'll surface.
Madam Chair, Councillor Menzies has her hand up.
Yes.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I need to put an apology. I can only be here for a quarter of an hour because I've got family who are here on holiday.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Christine. Anyone else?
Oh,
no. Okay, so will I move that?
no, don't worry about it. Just
Don't worry about it.
No.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Any leave of absence?
No.
Conflict of interest? No hands up.
Peter.
No.
Yeah, Peter's got one.
Yeah, I've got one. Sorry, Rotary 575, the Rotary grant application. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I should probably declare that Ivy Russell.
Thanks, Darren.
In relation to which item, Councillor?
It is the works plan where we're funding a group.
7.2.
Yeah, 7.2. So, and it's just on the Ivy Russell component of that.
So we'll take, yeah, when we get there, Natasha, we'll, Madam Chair, we'll take the items separately so we can deal with the conflict of interest at the time.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, we invite Anne to speak to us today. There, Anne. Just remember to unmute.
Try it again. Is that got it now? Is that live now? You can? Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Rightio. So ask me the question and then I'll tell you the answer.
I guess, Anne, you talked to me on Friday in regard to a project you were thinking about with the elm tree. And yes. So I thought that would be really good for the board to hear straight from you. And,
okay.
Yeah.
And the reasons behind it.
Yep.
Okay. So with you removing the trees that are down in front of the school, they are actually World War II heritage trees. Well, not heritage because they're not registered, but they are World War II trees. Now, I understand the reason behind it, and I'm not totally against it. You sort of have to go ho-hum, but time has to move on, and obviously those trees have to go because of what damage they're causing. What I wondered is, because there is a beautiful elm tree, which is a World War I heritage tree, and it is a heritage tree, in the centre of the Anzac Oval, my suggestion is, for a bit of forethought, is to look at getting some scions, which are the tip grafts of that elm tree, and getting a nursery to actually grow those on, and I know it takes quite a few years, you're looking at probably 3 to 5 years at least, growing them on and using that as a fundraiser later on to help, refurbish what you're doing there at the Anzac Oval. At the stage, the Anzac Oval was beautiful, but now it's starting to become quite overgrown. And with the Anzac Day services that are there, it's becoming a little bit congested. The big trees on the eastern side are starting to really enclose, and it's becoming quite a sort of a dampish area. So it would be quite cool to be able to expand that Anzac Oval, if we could, plant a few more of the trees further out, obviously, into that parking area and make it a bigger area, so simply for the locals to be able to sit there, or tourists. The other thing that I would suggest to you is that everybody knows that the gates, where the gates are and where they've been relocated from and where they're to, and that's the locals, they know that. But anybody coming into the town wouldn't know that there is an oval there that they can sit at the seats and have their afternoon tea or their lunch. They're not aware of that because there's no signage there for that sort of particular area. And, driving through, you've also got the pedestrian crossing right there as well. So there's nothing there to say you can have a picnic spot in 200 metres in that particular area. And I just wondered whether or not it's something that you guys could consider looking at and saying there's a picnic area and a parking area and somewhere where they can actually have, and the toilets are right there too, just across the road with the pedestrian crossing. So it's a safe crossing as well. So there's my thoughts.
Thank you.
Sorry, Natasha, the other thing I'd say to you is that the 2 flagpoles, and I'm going to assume that this have to go through RSA, etc., but the 2 flagpoles are actually in amongst the trees. So when they fly the flags actually hit on the trees. They don't actually fly at all properly now. And the flagpoles, in some ways, would be better off planted on the western garden, just on the inside of the garden, where the flags can be clearly seen from the state highway. And that could also indicate that there is a rest area there. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Anne. I think Darren and I both were quite excited when you came up with the idea of grafting the trees. That sounds really awesome. Yes, because it is, as you say, on the New Zealand Heritage List.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Perfect.
Right.
Thank you very much for coming and talk to us. Lots of interesting discussion in that 10 minutes.
Cool. And I'll try and sign off now for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Fantastic. Okay, so extraordinary urgent items. There are no items. Is there? Fiona?
No, none.
Okay. Number 6, the confirmation of the minutes. 14. Can I get a mover and a seconder for those if they are correct?
I'll move that one, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Brian. Can I have a seconder?
Yeah. Oh, that was Brian Somerville. Thank you, Brian.
A seconder. Thanks. Thanks,
Yeah.
Kate. All those in favour say aye.
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 Against? Carried. Okay, so we've got a report on the Great North Road tree removal. Is Mark Day for this?
He is here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Look, I'll take the report as read. And basically, the purpose of this report is to ask for some additional funding to remove the first section of trees. We went out to the market and got 3 quotes. All of those quotes were more than the budget that had been set aside for it. And the lowest of those quotes was an extra $7,000. So the report is asking for an additional $7,000 to be funded from the Winton General Reserve to cover the cost of the tree removal. Happy to take questions.
Is there any questions about this?
Madam Chair, Councillor Ruddenclough has her hand up, as does Councillor Fraser.
Awesome. Councillor Rutherford.
Thank you, Tash. Actually, I've gone a wee bit off task, and mine was to do with N. So if you want to deal with the trees, I wanted to just chat about the Anzac Oval and open spaces. Sorry.
Yeah, no, sorry, we won't do that at the moment. We'll come back to that workshop possibly at the end.
Okay, cool.
Darren?
I guess my primary concern is there's been quite a bit of feedback around the trees, and in approving this unbudgeted expenditure, we've actually still got an unbudgeted expenditure that hasn't been reported on. And I'm just looking, and it's the same, it'll come up again in the next paper. We've got half the job here, and I'm wondering the danger of approving half a job when we still have to replace them and we haven't presented that. I totally agree that the trees need to go down and need to be replaced, and there's very good reason for that. But my concern is we're doing that without having the decision. I'm okay to vote yes in this on this section, but I just think we haven't got the complete picture of the process, and I think that's going to continue to cause us some grief. So probably not a question or a statement.
Yes, that was probably more of an opinion. It's good to have that opinion. I suppose the question at the moment is that the decision has been made to remove the trees, and like you said, yes, we haven't got the full concept plan following in place. The question would be, the report states about receiving this report and approving the unbudgeted expenditure. Does anybody else have any questions or comments they want to put towards this? Possibly more questions would be better. Okay, Fiona, will I still go ahead and we're going to ask for approval of the recommendations? Can't see you, but can't hear you, Fiona. Sorry, you're still on mute.
Brian's got his hand up.
Brian's got his hand up.
Oh, okay, Brian, sorry.
Yeah, okay. I'm like Councillor Fraser. You know, I'm keen for the trees to go as well. I'll definitely be voting that way. It's just that some of us have got second thoughts about no replacement there. So for me, it's about nailing that discussion as well. I've still got no problem approving extra money because I still think it's going to happen. But I suppose we need to nail that other part of it.
So through you, Madam Chair, if I could just respond to that. Obviously, we were going to be doing some community engagement around what might be options for replacement. And unfortunately, because that engagement was scheduled during our current COVID situation, we haven't been able to do that. But I think it is still the intention of the board, as I understand it, to do some community engagement with the wider community about what they'd like to see as replacements in the area that the trees come out from. And once staff get a bit of guidance from the board after that engagement, then we can put together a report for you about options and what that might cost. But where we are at the moment is that we do not have the options for replacement, and until we do that engagement, it's unlikely that we're going to be able to answer that question.
Thank you, Karen. Is there any more questions?
Yeah, no, I sort of agree with what Karen's saying. Yeah, like we haven't got to that point with it yet, and we get these trees out and get them down. That'll certainly have the community thinking about what they would like to put back there, and I think that's the time to consult with them and work through that. I don't want to rush that process. We want to go through it thoroughly, so they might just be a bit of a bare spot for a while. They might not even want trees back there, but I'm pretty sure they will. But I think we just have to get on with what we've got so far and just be wary of where our costs are going.
Thank you, Colin. Any other questions or questions to Mark about the report?
Councillor Ruddinclaw's got her hand up.
Thank you,
Oh.
Councillor Ruddinclaw.
Through you, Chair, thank you. I would agree with the comments that have been made. I think it's very important going forward that we take our community with us, and we do engagement around the trees. There's a lot of community concern, as we've all seen, so everyone likes to have their voice heard. So I agree that community engagement and consultation going forward is so important for us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ruddinclaw. Any further questions? No. I have to say I agree. I think that you're right in what everybody is saying. At the end of the day, we've seen this price go up and up and up. There comes a point, I guess, where we're accepting that the trees are coming down, and whether we delay it, it'll cost more money and wait to the replacement option has been sorted, or we take this first lot down now and agree to this on budget expenditure and then decide how we go about the community consultation for replacement.
Councillor Menzies.
Councillor Menzies.
Sorry, I'm just noting I'll need to leave now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Christine. Councillor Menzies. So, Fiona, under the recommendation, are we putting this to a mover and a seconder? So would anyone like to move?
I'll move that. Oh, sorry, I'll second that. Whatever.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm not too sure who was the mover, if you're the seconder. Or you're the mover. Do we have a seconder?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Thank you, Colin. All those in favour say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Against?
Carried.
Carried. Next on the agenda, project scope confirmation. Thank you, Mark.
The project scopes for next financial year's projects. Got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 projects next year, so quite another quite big year for the Oreti Community Board. Now, this is an opportunity to, you don't have to approve all of these projects. If you want to put some on hold, carry them forward, or terminate them, now's the time to do it. However, these are the ones that you put in for this coming financial year through the LTP. And I've tried to provide you with as much information as I can in terms of the scope of work. So decision.
Thank you, Mark. Is there any questions for Mark?
Yeah, Mark, the Winter Medical Centre, you're taking the skylights out. Does that mean that you're going to have to put a new ceiling and stuff in those consulting rooms? The cost of that looks pretty high.
Questions on
I keep cutting in and out there, are you, Mark?
It seems to have lost them.
He's disappeared, I think.
Yeah. Karen or Fiona, have you got any answer from from this particular section now that we've lost Mark?
No, I can't offer anything for this.
Can we come back to it if he can come back on?
He's coming back.
He's coming back. Okay. technology.
Right, Mark, are you there?
Tish, we question, is there any possibility we could go through them one by one?
Absolutely.
They're quite, so you know, they're quite big projects, just to put it out to our community. Well, we've got them on board. Thank you. I'm just looking at a few here. Thank you.
I think perfect. Yeah.
I'm using a split screen too, so it's hard to juggle.
How about we just temporarily suspend the discussion on this and whiz down to a couple more items on the agenda, and we can come back to it when Mark's sorted.
That sounds good.
So will we go to 7.4?
Yep.
We'll
get all about the Mark ones. Yep.
Yeah. So this is the operation report for the Oreti Community Board. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just getting there. So I'll take this report as read and perhaps just make a couple of comments. On page 67, down the bottom there, that dipped in playground. The project current comment, I think, has not been updated because we did end up getting some communication out to the community, and they did vote on what style of playground equipment that they wanted, and that has been agreed, and that project is now moving forward. On page 68, the first one there around the Boffa Miscall people wanting to come and do a site visit. They have now notified some dates, and through you, Madam Chair, I think you will be communicating with the board about a suitable date for meeting up with them. The next one around the toilets in John Street, if I could just remind the board that we are wanting, you indicated you would like some community involvement in the ideas for the toilet wrap, and I'm not sure where the board is at that, but it would be useful if perhaps, Madam Chair, you could come back to me so I can let the communication team know where that's at. And the Winton Transfer Station green waste improvements, I understand that Water and Waste and Regan have spoken with Brian and some other members of the board, and the next step now is for that to come to you in a formal report for approval to move forward with the improvements. And I've spoken with Grant Isaacs, our strategic water and waste manager, and he tells me that will be coming to your next board meeting for approval. So I know that you'll all be really happy to see this finally moving forward. Happy to take any questions.
Karen, is there any questions for Karen? No hands up. Okay, can we please have a mover and a seconder for this report?
Yeah, I'll move it.
Thank you, Colin. Okay. Thank you, Darren. All those in favour say aye.
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 Aye. Through you, Madam Chair, Councillor Ruddenclough has her hand up.
Oh, sorry, Margie.
Sorry, Tish. I've just thanks, Karen. Just a wee question: how will we get the library? It looks like we're on track. Have we got any idea around getting in there and an opening, or?
Through you, Madam Chair, I don't think that's actually been decided, but it is on track and is moving ahead as fast as possible. And I'm happy to check with the project team tomorrow and give you a further update.
Oh, that would be amazing. I think there's a lot of interest. Thank you. It'd be exciting to see it finished.
Indeed.
I think there was something comms had put on social media about that as well. If you
Yes.
Library update. So that was all those in favour was aye, and any against? Carried. Okay, the next report is the Winton Rotary Club. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you have the report in front of you. The purpose of the report is to consider an application from the Rotary Club for grant funding of $5,000 towards the replacement and construction of the 3 welcome signs at the entrances to Winton. The overall cost of this project is approximately $10,000, and the other funding of $5,000 has been secured from the Strategic Tourism Asset Protection Program, which is administered by Great South. And we're suggesting that this $5,000 could come out of the Winton Property Sales Reserve, which currently has a balance of $165,811. Waka Kotahi has been working with the board, as you know, and they don't see any problems with formal approval because this replacement and construction sits within the current footprint of the current signs. And we also need a private landowner to give permission, and they have indicated that that approval will be forthcoming, and there is no resource consent required. So I'll happy to take questions. I'll take this report as read, and happy to take questions.
Is there any questions?
Yeah, what's the final design we've settled on?
So through you, Madam Chair, Councillor Fraser may be able to actually give you some more information about that.
Yeah, so Lockie got together with myself, with Winton Business, and then we've discussed it with promotions as well, and so everyone was reasonably happy with the concept. So basically a stone pillar on either side and a steel with a cutout letters, quite basic in the lettering. It would be Winton, Heart of Southland, established 1880, find the right number. And yeah, so very basic. Behind that cutout of the rusted kind of steel lock would be probably some zinc-alume. And so Lockie's going to work with the engineering place who's got the laser cutter here in town, who's also keen to help out. So
Master, you mean?
Yeah, so that's the general concept. So kind of similar to the picture on page 86 as far as the pillars go, but then the second picture there kind of has the cutout of the concrete, which will kind of be suspended between the pillars. Yeah, not quite exactly the same, but gives the concept. And the stones will be from the Oreti River, which of course brings some significance. And the idea of the rusted steel kind of symbolizes, I'm just repeating this from the designer, of course, symbolizes the rural outlook and kind of the rusticness of the area. Yeah, and of course the stones are from the river, so that connects us all.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Darren. Sorry.
So yes, so Madam Chair, you have 2 options in front of you: to approve the grant or not to approve the grant. And our recommendation is that this grant be approved.
I would be happy to move that.
Does anyone want to second that?
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Brian. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Carried. There will be recommendations A to D. Right. Fantastic. Okay, we'll carry on to the community leadership report. Thank you, Karen.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm on page 90 here, and I would take this report as read. However, there's a couple of comments perhaps I could make. I know the board was at their last workshop very interested in what council was doing for encouraging people to put their name forward for council and or community boards. So there's a blurb in here about what is happening with the 2022 local body elections. And as it says in this report, we're working in conjunction with the other councils in Southland. And there is some online forums with local government representatives talking about what it means to be an elected member, what time it takes, and the different work that they do, and looking at the role of local government. It's important to understand that the reason we're using people from outside the district is because of protocols around elections, which say we cannot be seen to be promoting standing members over those who may stand this year. Advertising has actually started, and you are more than welcome to visit the Vote Marahuku 2022 Facebook page, and we've included a link there if you'd rather just click on it. And then through mid-June to August the 12th, which is closing day for nominations. And this is going to look at why people would stand for local government, what the role of councillors, the mayor, community board members and board chairs is.
Amusing yourself, Karen.
Thank you, Colin. The third and final stage of the campaign will run from September through to the 7th of October, which is the day before election closes. And this is about encouraging people to have their say, to vote, and how to do that. Yeah, encourage you all to think about standing again. Another thing, I'm now on page 91, other funding. It's important, and I'm sure as you all realise, that due to the uncertainty and increasing numbers of COVID-19, a number of high-profile local events have been cancelled, which has had an economic and social impact on our communities, because some of these events are relied on to help with fundraising for communities. And so really, we're just saying here, please be aware that there's probably going to be an increased level of organisations seeking funding as a result. So it's really important for us to consider these in our future funding rounds. On to page 92, and you'll see the update we gave there about Waka Kotahi, and I have included from page 94 onwards a report that has been done by Waka Kotahi, and I know how interested the board is in our roads. And so we've included this in the community leadership report because it does give an audit of the work that we're doing at Southland District Council. And I think there's some really important points in the report that you'll be interested in. And I thought road safety was one of the very important points that was made in this audit. And I'm sure that you've all read it. Happy to take questions.
Any questions on this report?
On the roading report, I've got a couple of comments more than anything else. I do notice in there you don't check all the boxes when it comes to funding applications for bridges, etc. And that's a bit of concern to me because you've got a pyramid bridge, it's a one-lane bridge, and we've got a one-lane bridge up here that should have been a two, and they've actually made quite a note that we don't fill out the correct portions. That needs to happen.
Through you, Madam Chair. Through you, Madam Chair, could I just make the comment that it's pretty obvious there's a shortage of funding. All the recommendations just need more money chucked at it, really. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Did you have another question, Colin, or you're right?
Oh, no, that was mainly the rest of it. I sort of agree we need more funding, but interesting that it's taken 12 months for this report to come out. Not really current now.
Through you, Madam Chair, Brian has his hand up.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, all in all, it's not a bad report. There's a couple of wee things in there from council minor things, but yeah, the ceiling obviously and the flushing is a major issue. and what they're looking at there. But completely agree with Pete there. Like it's money, money, money. I know we're going to get an extra smidgen of funding from the end of the day, but I suppose all in all, not a bad report. But there's a couple of wee things in there that you should really have a good read. That maybe ask a couple of questions later on.
Thank you, Brian. Any further questions? All right, we'll just get a mover and a seconder for the recommendation of receiving the report. Thanks, Pete. Thanks, Darren. All those in favour say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Against? Carried. Just note that in the chat it says that Mark is having problem connections, so if you want to put your questions in, Karen will relay them to Mark.
I'm back online.
Oh, thanks, Mark. Okay. Well, do you want us to pop back to you while you're good?
Yeah, let's go back to 7.2.
Thank you, Mark. 7.2. Margie was wondering if we could go through these sort of individually.
Yep, that's fine by me.
Fine by you? Perfect. Okay.
So see, Darren's got a question there about the time frame it would take for a group to form and make a decision before we take the other option. How long's a piece of string? In terms of whether or not you have there is a group interested. I guess some sort of entity call over.
I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm only getting parts of that.
Me too.
Yeah.
If the one's down on top of a hill, Mark.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mark, you are cutting out in and out a bit. How do you want to proceed?
In fairness to Mark, it's probably a question the board needs to answer rather than Mark.
Yeah.
Just to be fair to Mark, my suggestion is that a time frame gives. I was trying to make a question rather than a statement. A time frame gives a potential group urgency to do something, but it also gives them a fair and reasonable time. And so I'm kind of pondering where that balance line is between creating some urgency and also giving time to achieve that. And so would be kind of interested from a council point of view, what would be a fair and reasonable time. Urgency would be they've got to decide next week, but I don't think that's fair and reasonable to set up a trust to have those discussions, because I'm gauging that there is interest and there is a group of people who don't want to see it demolished. So yeah, that's where that question's kind of leading.
Okay. Thank you, Darren. I know that the last time Kevin and I spoke to Annabelle and Sharon, Kevin McNaught implied that there would be possibly up to 5 years, depending on what how the decisions went. I know the board was thinking at the time that they didn't want it to be taking that long for a decision to be made, or the process. Brian, you might have some more discussion, but I do know that the Drill Hall AGM is on the 13th, so we're going to talk about that in our workshop if people want to attend. Brian, do you have any comments?
Oh, look, I suppose I'm really sick to death of the discussion around the Drill Hall. It's been going on so long, and Jesus, if we can't come up with a decision now, there's something wrong with us. And the sooner I see a vacant space there, the better, as far as I'm concerned. So it needs to go, and people have had plenty of opportunities. It's no surprises. So again, let's make some decisions.
Through you, Madam Chair, if I could just add to that discussion, I would like to remind the board that when these discussions were initiated quite a few years ago now, it was initiated because of the significant cost that was required to undertake the external obligations, such as the cladding was coming to the end of its life, versus the income that was being received from the trust for the lease of the site, given that they retain all the higher income. And this has been compounded by the hall rate that we charge ratepayers having to fund 3 halls, which is the Memorial, RSA and Drill Hall, and the funds that were required from a decision that was made by the board at the time to upgrade the Memorial Hall. Council did offer to grant funds for the youth centre to take over the hall, which they declined, which included putting a whole new roof on it. And again, I have asked Kevin to resend you the report that was done on the condition of the drill hall. Again, there has been ongoing conversations for the last 2 years. And again, I would remind you that this was part of our consultation that we were going to engagement that we were going to be doing with the community. And again, this has just been delayed through the COVID situation. And the board has made it clear that you do want to engage with the community and continue this conversation. But Brian is correct when he says that this has been going on for now a number of years. And whilst you haven't decided that you're going to demolish the hall, you have indicated that you would like to divest yourself of it. And there is still a lot of options on the table apart from demolition. But again, until you do that community engagement, you won't know what others may want to do before you can make a meaningful decision. So I hope that was a wee bit useful in the discussion.
Thank you, Karen. Definitely useful. Is there any more questions on the drill hall, or do we want to move on to the next scope? Are we going to?
The drill hall. You have got their AGM coming up on the 13th of April. What I might attend out myself, perhaps if I can make it. They have put it out there pretty much so with all the users to attend that AGM, and I think that would be a good point to have a frank discussion with them. But I think, a bit like Brian, we move on. Depending on who turns up their AGM, I think they're going to get they are hoping to have all their users here. So they're the people we're going to consult with. And I do think we need to put a time frame on that. It needs to be decided in a couple of months. Either they're interested in taking ownership of it, we move on to the next stage. Demolition. No, ownership's a good thing. If they want to take it on, I'm all for it.
Absolutely. I think, and that's this discussion we've had, but we'll have further discussion with them.
Brian has his hand up, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Brian.
All I'm saying, it'll probably fall down before we make a decision.
Thank you, Brian. That was.
Got your hand up.
Councillor Ruddenclough has her hand up too.
Thank you, Maggie.
Through you, Madam Chair. Everyone's covered the bases I was going to talk about, but I agree with the time frame and engagement in our community. I think it's really important. And AGM's coming up. I had a conversation with you the other day, Tash, and I have left a message on Annabelle's phone. So I look forward to having a chat to her too around all these community groups. It would be great to see them get in behind what they want to see with the drill hall. So I'll leave it there. Conversation's been held, I think, with us lot.
Thank you. Yes.
Through you, Madam Chair, I do see some questions in the chat here, and I probably can answer a couple of them now that Mark's not here. Is there any urgency? He's on the phone. Oh, here we go. Right.
Through you, Madam Chair, look, this is a project that's in for next financial year, so this doesn't start until the 1st of July this year. So there's still a little bit of time for them to have their annual meeting and have the conversations. all you're approving is the actual whether or not you want to dispose or demolish that hall. And you still have the opportunity to pull this project if you don't think it needs to go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair.
This is not a definitive. Yes, we're going to go ahead and do it. Either of those options. If, say, for instance, there was a group that strongly wanted to take it over, however they needed some time, you can still carry this project forward into the next financial year.
So through you, Madam Chair, Mark, we've actually moved on from the drill hall while you were away. So we're on to the second question about the trees. Is there any urgency with removing stage 2 and 3 of the halls? It may be better to replant stage 1 and having it look nice before the second stage. Would you have any comments about that?
I would suggest that all 3 sections get removed because it's going to take a little bit of time to come up with whatever you want to do. In terms of replanting, if you want to replant at all, and it will give the time for the tree stumps to rot down. Even we will stump grind them, but obviously they'll have to rot down and recover. But I think it will give you a good opportunity to rethink. Consult with the community and make a decision.
Madam Chair, Councillor Fraser has his hand up.
Thank you, Councillor Fraser.
I wasn't sure that we had reached a conclusion on the drill hall either, but so I should have only put one question at a time. But yeah, I'm just incredibly concerned that if we knock down all the trees before we've done any replacement, that's, yeah, I know we've discussed in the past cutting some down and replacing them so that it's not left bare. I just think we're going to have a community up in arms if we do that. And we've already got a community, some members of the community and some members happy. I just think do one section, get it tidy, but it's democracy, so we can vote on that. But I just think it would be pretty dangerous to cut them all down before we've replaced any of the first ones.
Through you, Madam Chair, I think as long as you have got a plan for what you want to do, and I was out there with Landscape Architect on Friday, and I've asked him to come up with some options for the board, then I don't believe that you will have a lot of pushback from the community. As long as they can see that there is something that's going to happen and they can see it visually, rather than us just talking about it. And also interesting, there was a number of people that were walking along the footpath and asked whether or not we were going to take the trees down, and they said great. So, there's two sides to every story, and I suspect we're hearing from the ones who want to be vocal and not so much the ones that are supporting or in support of what you're actually trying to achieve there.
Thank you, Trina. Do you have something to say, Trina?
Yes, thanks. Through you, Madam Chair. Just the question would be, I can see both points and I agree with Darren as well, but the thing is, it would be if the 3 stages had to be completed first, it would be the time frame of those 3 stages that would concern me, because if we started, say, stage 1 and things got a bit held up as they do, we're going to have a big mess. So I think we've got to fence in the time frame before we make the decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Trina. I think what you
do have the option of pulling stage 3 forward and doing it all next financial year.
Okay. Is there any other questions? Darren, do you have another question?
Pete's got his hand up.
Sorry, I forgot to set my hand down.
Madam
Yeah.
Chair, Pete has his hand up.
Yes, Madam Chair. Yeah, I'm of the opinion that if we're going to do it, then okay, we do it. There's no use hedging it and stretching it out. I can see what Darren's saying, but the community aren't going to be happy whether we take one bit out this year and next year or whatever. They're not going to be happy, full stop. There's a group in the community is a better way of putting it. Yeah. But yeah, that's just my opinion. I think we should, if we're going to go for it, we've got to go whole hog straight away.
Thank you, Pete. As you've said in the past, Mark, we can approve this and then delay, or then can we get another report to bring the stage 3 forward if necessary?
We can do it through forecasting, which is just a council process where it just goes straight through you guys, make a recommendation, say you want to pull that project forward, and then it gets approved by council.
Thank you. Any more questions on the tree removal, or we move to the next?
Yeah, see you, Madam Chair. I agree with Pete. I think we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. We need to get on to it. And if Mark's been out there with a gardening consultant, we need to get a few ideas out there in the community as for replacement, because they need to see that we are going to do something after they're gone. Winter's coming up. It's going to be a messy job.
Thank you, Colin. Okay, the next question on your list, Darren, was the Wallace track. What exactly are we getting for the money?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. That was a project that was put in the last LTP, and it was my understanding that it was an investigation project. However, what I have asked the consultants who are doing the Oreti open spaces investigation currently is to ask that particular question, which is there any interest in a walking track along the west side of Wallace Town as part of the work they're doing for the wider investigation project. So that funding could actually be for creating the track, as opposed to just investigating whether there's a need for it.
So through you, Madam Chair. So Mark, are you saying that if the board, just to clarify, are you saying that if the board would like to defer that amount to the next financial year, that there would still be some investigative work done during the current year with current funding for another project? Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is the question will be asked of the Wallace community: is there any interest in having a track on the western side?
Right.
If there is, then we have money to actually do the work next financial year.
Right. Okay.
So the name of that project will change. It will just become track development western side of Wallace or something along those lines. And so you'll have basically have $20,000 sitting there to develop the track. Is that clear?
Yep. Trina, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. So in that case, they would be told that 20,000 is just a wee pimple in the haystack, that it's not going to complete the walk-on track of their dreams. I think if we're going to the community, they need to understand the whole expenditure project, because at the end of the day, you know, like if we move it out, maybe we should have put a public toilet that, you know, everyone can come through and use. Not just a wee team. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Ruddenclaw.
Through you, the Chair, thank you. My question is, if we're going to spend $20,000 plus on a consultation document, we haven't spoken to the community first, Should we not go to the community before we put money like that out there and see if they actually want it? It's a significant amount of money for the ratepayers.
Through you, Madam Chair, the whole point of asking the consultants that are doing the current work, so they're actually doing an investigation project for the whole of the Oreti Community Board, is to ask the Wallace Town community whether or not there is interest in developing that track. But what I'm saying is that $20,000 would go towards actually constructing the track if that's what the community wants.
Rather than the consulting that we're talking about now, is what you mean? This is just
so the project in the long-term plan was called the Walking Track Investigation Project.
Yep.
What I'm trying to do, I'm trying to get the investigation piece done as part of the current piece of work that we are getting done.
Through our open spaces strategy.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, that's sensible. I think that's very sensible. And talk to the Wallace Town community. I think that's, yeah, great idea.
Yep. So essentially, we're not going to spend $20,000 on an investigation. That's probably a better way of putting it.
It's a great way of wording it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fraser, do you have a question?
I do. Mark, do we have an estimate, rough ballpark, what a track might cost?
We did approximately the same length at Bath Road, and that came in at, from memory, it was about 30,000.
So
it's a standard design, so it's 1.4 meters wide. So more like a multi-use track. So you can push a pram along it, you can bike along it, you can walk along it, and it had that one's got quite a nice rope and post edging along it, just to define the edging. I think from memory, it's about 500 metres from Kirkbride Street, is that right, Trina? Through to the cemetery, which is where the track would run.
Yeah, that sounds right, Mark.
Yeah.
It would get used, and we did have a group that was interested.
And it's already quite, it's got trees on one side, it's fenced on the other side, it's council land, so we don't have to acquire any land, we don't have to get any land ownership, land agreements or anything like that in place. And it's, from memory, I think it's currently grazed.
Yes, true.
Yeah.
So a follow-on question. Obviously, if we did approve this tonight, and we would change the wording instead of investigating to being potential to being, if investigations through the current one, then this could be project money for the actual project. So we would be approving a project rather than an investigation. Is that what we're saying?
That's correct.
So that wording would be changed.
Yes.
Excellent.
Thank you, Darren. Any further questions?
No, that's it for now.
Through you, Madam Chair, I think Colin had a question for Mark about the scope for the maternity hospital. Is that right, Colin?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, you disappeared, Mark. I see you're taking out the skylight. The cost of all that's quite high. Does that mean you've got to redo the ceilings in those rooms as well if you're taking the skylights out?
Yeah, and we'll also replace the lights with LED lights, since how we're taking a light source away.
Yeah, so it's just a bit more than filling a hole in the roof then, isn't it?
Yep.
That's fine.
Thank you. We haven't exactly gone through them one by one, Margie, but we have talked previously about the Memorial Hall electric blind installation. Does anybody else have any questions about that one? Any hands? And also the Ivy Russell development. Any questions about that? Which Darren can't be involved in. Right. And the Centennial Park Grandstand refurbishment. Any questions on that? No, I think they've been fairly well discussed previous. Fiona, how are we going to approve of this report with the changes to the wording for the Wallerstown walking track?
Right, what do we want to put in the Wallerstown walking track?
The Wallacestown walking track construction project.
Yep. What, turn it into
Take out
investigation
and replace it with construction.
Okay, that's cool. Righty ho. And to manage the conflict of interest, Madam Chair, I would suggest you do A to C, D without Ivy Russell, which means Councillor Fraser can vote. And then we'll take Ivy Russell separately.
I'm just wondering if we could do them separately, because I'd like to vote no on a couple and yes on others. Sorry to be a pain.
That's fine. Okay, so get a mover and seconder for move the whole motion, the A to D with the change to the Wallerstown walking track, and now go through and put, get a mover and seconder for the whole motion, put recommendations A to C, get that put and carried, and then go through D, each item separately, and we can manage the conflict of interest at the same time.
I'll move it.
Okay.
Anyone
the whole.
Second the whole.
Natasha, the whole. Okay. So A to C, get that put and carried.
So move for all those in favour. Is that what you mean, or do you want to move it?
All those in favour of A to C.
All those in favour from A to C, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Right, now you can put Winton Drill Hall.
Okay, Winton Drill Hall. Those in favour say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Against? Carried. Winton Centennial Park Grounds refurbishment. Those in favour say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Winton Maternity Centre exterior painting. Those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Winton Medical Centre replacement and recladding. All those in favour say aye.
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 Those against? Carried. Winton Great North Road tree removal stage 2. All those in favour say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Nay.
Those against? Darren?
And I'm not against the trees being removed. I'm just against the process that we're taking. So, but there you go. We can agree to disagree.
Do you want your dissenting vote recorded for that one?
Yes, please.
Okay, Winton Ivy Russell Reserve Development. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those against? Carried. Winton Memorial Hall electric blind installation. All those in favour say aye.
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 Against? Carried. Wallerstown walking track
construction
project. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against? Carried. Dipton Hall toilet refurbishment. All those in favour say aye.
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 Against? Carried. Declare the motion carried.
Yay.
Fiona?
Just
That
on
was
the
good.
Dipton Hall thing, how have you got on with organising a meeting up there, Mark?
Not very well.
I'm not
But we
surprised.
need to get onto that as soon as possible. I'll check with Graham tomorrow and see if we can get hold of Sandra to meet up there.
I have given them a heads up that we're wanting to have a meeting, so I know it's coming.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so we were up to the council report 7.7.
Should we let Mark go now?
No, I've got another one.
What?
Oh, I think we've. Oh, you do too. Sorry, Mark.
All right, let's knock that one off then.
So through you, Madam Chair, this is the report for retrospective unbudgeted expenditure to fix the electrical problems that they're having at the hall, and also erect the fence out in the car park and put signage up. Happy to take any questions in terms of this. I think it's been well discussed between myself and the community board and the hall committee, and it needs to be done.
Thank you. Mark, is there any questions? Follow up from our previous discussions? No questions? Okay, I'm like a mover and a seconder for this recommendation.
I'll move that way, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Brian. Seconder, Pete. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against? Carried.
Who seconded that one, Madam Chair? Sorry.
Pete.
Pete. Oh, I thought he'd moved it.
No, Brian.
moved.
Brian. Hey, cool. Sorry about that, folks.
All good.
Right, Mark.
Thanks you, Mark.
Excellent. Hey, thanks for your time. Hopefully next time we'll meet in person, and then I won't have technical difficulties.
It would be good. That sounds ideal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, so council report. I'm not sure, is this Darren or Karen?
I think this one's me, but Karen and Margie, you might want to add bits to if appropriate. I'll take it as read, but just highlight a few things. The future for local government. We met the panel and obviously board members, or at least chairs, I think were invited, but I can't remember how wide that was spread. I was pleasantly surprised with how that meeting went. The panel looking at the future of local government don't necessarily have a preset agenda. They are simply looking to ask the question, what would good local government look like? And then from that, we'll come up with a plan. So it was really encouraged by that discussion and where that went. Obviously, the proof will be in the pudding when the report comes out in October to see what comes out. But I felt that that was a really positive thing. Any questions around that?
Yeah, I got one. Darren, Steve, Madam Chair, I see you struggling getting contractors, especially for the wee jobs down there under community facilities. Maybe we need to look at an easier system for getting people to come and work, do council work rather than getting pre-approval. Maybe they should be submitting their health and safety plans when they apply to do the job, just to try and speed things up.
I think that's a question that we could put to the asset team, but I think it's probably in reality a reflection on the market as well. I mean, I'm having trouble getting someone to fix my roof at home, and I don't have any health and safety plans. And I think small jobs at the moment are pretty hard to find. So I think while I don't disagree with you, I just think there's probably the markets at play is probably a bigger factor at the moment. But yeah, Karen, we could probably note that too. And it does get talked about regularly at Services and Asset Committee meeting, making it easier and how we can make that easier. So it's definitely something that the team are trying to actively engage and work on.
Thank you. Pete, do you have a question?
Yeah, question. Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for Darren. Is there a time frame when these guys present their findings?
Yeah, so that's they present their initial report in October. Obviously, they have talked to they're talking to every local government, like right around the country. And so in the week they talked to us, I think they had 30 something councils they were talking to. So it gives an indication of, it's quite a wide scope. So yeah, that report will be out late October, early November. And from there, they're looking from that report is about what creates good local government. And then the second stage and moving forward would be, how do you achieve that? So yeah, we sit and watch. They're certainly not looking for comments around amalgamation or things like that at this stage. Would that be what you picked up, Margie?
Yes, absolutely, totally. I was in a Just Transitions workshop today too, Darren, and they were talking about the future of local government, working together, all councils, regional council, ICC, or going forward today in the Just Transitions workshop. So yeah, I would totally agree with what you just said.
Yep.
Yeah.
The other thing just to point out, and it's not so much talked about in the report, but just to give a heads up, there are massive water shortages across the district. As you would have seen, there's been notices go out, particularly up in Mossburn area, and it's being monitored quite carefully. But yeah, that's an ongoing significant issue that, as probably most of you will be aware, we haven't seen much rain. So, and the other thing I was going to just point out, just because it's local, was that the enforcement action around the Dipton's cars was successful, and a prosecution was made. So I did send that out to Colin as well at the time. Yeah, any other questions? Happy to take them.
I think Brian, did you have a question?
No, good answer, me. And I was looking for more of a heads up on the discussion on local government, but I got my answer, so I removed my hand.
Through you, Madam Chair, if I could just point out on page 120, in response to Councillor Ruddenclaugh's question about the Winton Library, it actually says there that they're hoping to shift from the RSA mid to late April into the new building, but I will still make inquiries for you about when it may be operational and when we might be able to celebrate the opening.
I know that's great. Thank you, Karen. I think there's just such a lot of impact around COVID, isn't there? And we just, it'd be great to have an idea of when that'll happen. It'll be a real positive for our community too. Can I just touch on what Darren said around the water shortage as well? And everyone will be aware of it. And while we'll talk about it, the works are also under pretty strict capacity at the moment with COVID. So it's put a lot of pressure on our rural communities. We can't get stock off properties, but I just thought I'd share that while we're sitting here and talking about our communities and water. It's a bit of a desperate situation for many people.
Maggie. Is there any further questions on the council report? No. Okay, can we get a mover or a seconder to receive the report?
I'll move it.
Thank you, Colin, and a seconder.
Jeffrey.
Someone like to speak? Thank you, Jeff. All those in favour say aye.
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 Against? Carried. Last report is the chairperson's report. I take this as read. I don't think there's anything too major to point out. Just the fact that we were thankful for the help from Kevin and Councillor Ruddenclaugh and Councillor Fraser for their efforts with some activities over the last little while. And just thank you to the board for all the hard work they've been putting in this last month. It has been yeah, like I said earlier, a very full-on month of emails, meetings, reports, and discussions. And I thank you for your attendance, and especially with the online Zoom meetings, it's never easy, but we're certainly getting the hang. So could I get a mover and a seconder for that report? Or is there any questions that anyone has about my report? No, so I'm going to move and a seconder. Well, I can move it. Can I get a seconder?
I can second it.
Thanks, Pete. All those in favour, say aye.
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 Against? Carried. So we cats popping up, takes me a minute to find out what's going on. Okay, so we just want everyone to stay on. We've got a couple of people coming to talk to us. Thanks, Fiona. Do you want to say something?
Madam Chair, declare the meeting closed, and we can stop the live stream, and I can let the regional council people into the rest of your night.
Okay, great. I'll declare the meeting closed.